Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever the hell you're listening to us. Welcome to another episode of Kirk Your Enthusiasm. Today, I am joined by my friend Anthony Irwin, and we're ready to talk about basketball-like substance because the Los Angeles Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks play each other on Sunday afternoon in a marquee game. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great. I'm hoping that because right before we went live, you were like, it's going to be 20 minutes of fucking Fred. I really hope that that's the name of this pod. I'd like, if it isn't, I'm going to be disappointed in you.
I probably can't put that in the title, because you and I are both part of the same weird podcast network, and we're like almost between shows, but we're not yet. So it's like we probably need to remain somewhat professional. But that is whatever. So, I was told something yesterday that I had no idea about. And you know this, at least I'm pretty sure you know this. The Los Angeles Lakers, the closest they've been to 500 all year is within 3 games.
Yeah.
What the shit?
Yeah, they started 2-10. And so... occasionally they would kind of go on a run and they would win 7 out of 10, but they were already so far below 500 at that point that it made the record look somewhat kind of respectable. And yeah, I mean, it's impossible right now to frame the season any other way than before Russell Westbrook trade and after Russell Westbrook trade.
Okay.
And like right now, the Lakers, they've played 2 straight games where both LeBron and AD have played fewer than 29 minutes, and they won both of those games handily. LeBron and AD combined for 25 points last night, and they beat the crap out of a shorthanded Warriors team who sucks on the road anyway.
Big win though, like that game was not close.
Yeah, and it's just it used to take LeBron and AD combining for like 80 points for the Lakers to have a chance at winning, and you look at the way that they played last night. Malik Beasley goes 7 of 11 from 3-point range. I was legitimately racking my brain for the last time a Laker shot 11 3-pointers and I wasn't concerned for like their decision making. And last night it all came within the flow of the game. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that they have not been that close to 500 all year because, frankly, they were a bad basketball team while Russ was making $47 million on their books.
So let me ask you this, because there's so many stinking trades on the day of the trade deadline that I have a pretty good idea of who was traded for who, but let's just go through it. So what was the trade? Tell us about the Lakers trades before the deadline.
So first, they traded for Rui Hachimura, That was the first deal that they made. They sent Kendrick Nunn and either one or two, I think 2 second rounders to Washington.
I remember that one.
Uh-huh. And so like that was interesting because when it happened, I remember I think we had just been laid off, or I had just been notified that I was laid off. And Jake Fisher was nice enough to like reach out and say, hey, if you want a platform, you can come on. I'm doing my show live today. And I'm like, well, my head's all over the place, but sure, why not? What could possibly go wrong? And I kind of wondered at that time if that was going to start to reset the market, because the market was so out of whack because
no one knew who could be traded for what.
Right. Well, Rudy Gobert goes for 37 first-round picks and has been a disaster basically for a lot of the season in Minnesota. So, like, from that point on, every GM who had a player who was, like, even kind of desirable was like, I want 2 first-rounders for Eric Gordon. And so when Rui went, Rui is a flawed player. Like, he's going to have to make some tweaks to his approach to the game if he really wants to continue to play pivotal roles on good teams. But he is still a former top 10 pick, and he went for not a single first rounder. He is an expiring contract at worst, and he's going to be signed, I think, to a pretty livable, for the team. His next contract is going to be pretty easy to deal with because he hasn't really lived up to top 10 billing. And yeah, so that was the first trade. And I wondered if that was going to reset the market. And then, you come to find out before then it was going to cost 1 pick to move Russ, and it was going to cost another pick to get anything of value for Russ. So, before it was 2 picks for, say, Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, with Russ going back to Indiana. And that was the trade that like has gotten all of the attention dating back to the very beginning of the offseason. And the final trade that winds up actually getting across the finish line here was Russ and a first rounder. And that, Mike Conley was involved. He winds up in Minnesota or whatever. But the Lakers wind up getting D'Angelo Russell. They get Malik Beasley and they get Jared Vanderbilt. And it was thought before, the trade deadline series of trades, Vanderbilt was going to get a first rounder. Beasley was going to get a first rounder. And I would have imagined that like Minnesota thought they were going to get a first rounder for D'Angelo Russell.
You want to know, my co-host said to me yesterday, he said, nothing makes me think the league is rigged more than the Lakers getting 3 functional players for Russell Westbrook and a pick.
Yeah.
I laugh like and scoff at that just because each one of those players you mentioned has like definitive flaws. Like, and they're like they're useful rotation players, but they probably need fit more than anything else because like,
and they're all about to be paid. Like
right,
all of them have contracts that end after the season.
Yeah. So just putting that out in the universe, because like I think there are people that have that frame of reference where I'm like, okay, this is like pretty interesting trade, but it also puts the Lakers. We're going to circle back to this in the end. Lakers have a lot of really important decisions to make in the future. So
yeah, they really do. So that was the big trade, obviously, finally getting off of Russ and getting, some depth in return for him. Even if they are flawed players, Vanderbilt can't shoot, Malik Beasley can't defend. So if you combine those 2 players, they're a great role player. But like, even that said, you have LeBron and AD, and they are going to make role players better. And so like, that was always kind of the frustration when they went out and they got Russell Westbrook, was like, LeBron and AD aren't going to make Russ better. LeBron and AD can make Malik Beasley better. They can make Jared Vanderbilt better. They'll make like Mo Bamba better or something like that. And that was the final trade that the Lakers made. And this was one that I've been scratching my head over. I guess they made 2 trades that eventually folded into one, but they sent Thomas Bryant to Denver and they got a few second rounders back for him. And then they sent a second rounder and Patrick Beverly to Orlando for Mo Bamba, and kind of replaced the Thomas Bryant in their rotation, kind of upgraded, I think, from Thomas Bryant to Mo Bamba. But the only thing I would have done maybe differently there is they already used the 1 first rounder. I would have used the second one and gone out and gotten Bojan. with, Patrick Beverley's expiring. But, I think the Lakers, and we'll, like you said, circle back to like what they might do in the future later, but they wanted to hold on to that second first round pick. But yeah, they wind up turning Kendrick Nunn, Russell Westbrook, and Patrick Beverley, and a first rounder, and I think 3 or 4 second rounders winds up being the final total. They send those guys out and those picks out, and they get back D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Mo Bamba, and Jared Vanderbilt, and Rui Hachimura, and a very successful trade deadline.
And quite the trade deadline, because now we have 2 teams, because everybody knows this by now. Obviously, the Mavericks have Kyrie Irving. They were one of the first teams to really get along with the Lakers, moving the trade deadline up a little bit. Kind of precursors to what a crazy trade deadline that we had with Rui Hachimura trade, then the Kyrie Irving trade. Felt like the Kyrie one might be big, and then there was the Durant one, which overshadowed everything.
Yep.
So we're heading into a game.
Have you told the story yet of like? Have you laid out the scene?
Oh yeah. No, Josh and I recorded later that night. It was just Anthony was with me. I forgot you were there. God, Anthony and I were in the same room because Anthony is currently a Texas resident, and he had driven up for Doyle Rader's baby shower and was like, "Oh God, we got to go deal with this." But so now we got this kind of marquee game, and it's a bit of I want to call it. It feels like every game for the Lakers is somehow like this stretch that they have. I mean, this is a monstrous stretch where it's like Dallas, Memphis, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Golden State, Memphis again, Toronto, New York. Like y'all don't play a truly bad team until Houston on the 15th of March. So if there's a play-in game push to be had, it's going to have to be made over these next several weeks. And these 2 teams are playing against each other, and they're both kind of in very interesting spots. Like, so I don't know if you've seen this, because this happened literally as we were logging in, but D'Angelo Russell is considered doubtful, according to Darvin Ham. And I think that I'm curious, just what's your read on this game? How does his injury and him being out impact what the Lakers have been doing these last 2 games? And, what do you think it means for like the Lakers' chances? Because road games are always harder. We know that. But then again, I don't know if you know this, but the Mavericks have been giving up like north of 60 points in the paint since they traded for Kyrie. It's been horrendous.
Yeah.
So
today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
That's that's not a stat that you want going into a game where you're about to try to guard Anthony Davis.
Right. Right. That's this game. To me, this game came down to, does Anthony Davis, is he alive?
Yeah. And look, there's been some weird vibes around AD. Some question as far as like how healthy he is, where he's at mentally, all of this stuff. Last night was another weird one. He only shot 5 times against the Warriors, and like, look, Draymond Green defends AD better than everybody else in the league. Like, not as good as everybody else in the league, but better than everybody in the league. He really gets into him. He really uses that low center of gravity and fouls the shit out of him. I think it was a weird matchup for AD, one that he probably should have taken more advantage of, but didn't. And yeah, like ever since he's come back, he's had some moments, he's had some spurts. He'll have the occasional play where he gets way up above the rim, and then he'll have like a string last night where Kevon Looney stuffed him in a locker for 5 straight offensive rebounds. So weird vibes around AD. He is, I think, going to be kind of the central figure of this one. If the Lakers can get him going, I just don't think Dallas, especially after the Kyrie trade, can really do much with him. As far as Russell, I don't know. I think he's replaceable enough now that they have more players. I would prefer they start Austin Reeves at point guard and let Schroeder run the second unit. Schroeder has looked a lot better coming off of the bench and not playing as much next to LeBron. Schroeder doesn't really space the floor. He needs the ball in his hands. You can run the occasional Schroeder LeBron pick and roll, but like they don't. Defenses basically just like leave Schroeder and double LeBron on the screen, and Schroeder isn't really like somebody who takes advantage of drop coverage or turns the corner.
Your roster is just peak. Remember some guys.
It is.
Like, I forgot that Schroeder was on the team.
It's like the Expendables movie series. Like it's like, oh, Jet Li's here. So yeah, I think Russell being out hurts because like he has been really fun to watch as like a secondary creator next to LeBron. He is a good shooter and that really helps. But I think Reeves can kind of make up for that to a certain extent. And look, if Malik Beasley goes 7 of 11 from 3-point range, the Lakers just aren't going to lose that game. Like it becomes really difficult to guard them if he is that kind of unconscious. So those I think are the two factors. Can the Lakers carry over their solid shooting from home on the road? We know role players shoot worse on the road, and that's a big factor. And then look, defensively, they just don't really have an answer for Kyrie. Like they have somewhat of an answer. Like Jared Vanderbilt is physical enough, I think, to kind of annoy Luka sometimes. Rui also is kind of physical enough, but he's not very good defensively. They have 0 players who might even annoy Kyrie Irving. So that's I think the big kind of questions that I have going into it. Will AD play well? And how thoroughly can Kyrie take advantage of the Lakers' defensive point guard woes?
I expect just like it. So the Mavericks beat the Spurs last night, 142-116. Like, I expect an 80s basketball game with this score. Like, pound the over, because Kyrie has been pushing the Mavs a little bit more. Mavs have been scoring a little bit more. And, Luka had traditionally been playing the Mavericks at such a low pace. The Lakers, like, obviously, LeBron and Luka get a lot of comps. But the thing that drives me nuts is Luka does not take any transition points. He just doesn't push the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's where LeBron has been killing teams his entire career and really crushing the Mavericks the last couple of times they played. And so I'm going to be looking forward to seeing kind of what the pace of the game is. I think an over is something to consider if you're a betting person. I think this one, like, this is what ABC hopes for when they do these marquee games, because this is, Anthony Davis, I'm not sure how popular he is, but Luka, LeBron, and Kyrie are 3 of the 5 most popular players in the league. Mm-hmm. I will say one thing I've heard, and I've not been to a game since Kyrie's been there, is that the crowd energy since Kyrie has been there has shifted a lot to where, because of how he plays and just frankly because of his fan base sort of traveling, people showing up more, the games are a bit more raucous because the Mavs have just traditionally kind of had that, I don't know, it's just kind of it's like a place to be seen, and Lakers obviously have that issue with the lower level bowl, and it just seems like that. I think this will be a really, really fun game. I'm also glad it's on in the middle of the day, because I mean, you don't have to work at night.
I really am happy that for the league's sake that the Lakers made the Russell Westbrook trade. Like, that story was told. We've seen that movie a few times over. We knew how it was ending and everything. And like, there was reporting after the fact, there was the infamous Dave McMenamin relaying that somebody from the Lakers called Russ a vampire. There's just that whole saga needed to end, and it needed to end as quickly as it possibly could. And now, like, the focus can be basketball. Like, every time Russ stepped onto the court, it was always, gosh, they were thinking about sending him home if they didn't trade him. And if he played in this game, that would be part of the conversation. Like, when are they going to send this guy home? Is this, can this continue? But no, like, at now, with the way that the rosters are kind of put together, I am really fascinated how Kyrie and Luka make it work together. I'm really fascinated by, can the Lakers take advantage of Luka and Kyrie defensively, and some of how they're going to struggle. Like, I think Dorian Finney-Smith's absence in this one is really going to matter. LeBron on the wing.
Yeah, there's nobody. It's like
now with
Reggie Bullock.
space. Yeah, well, like it was one thing before when Russ was there that like the Lakers would kind of guard themselves with having such few shooters that like the key, even if you didn't have great defenders, if you just basically told the Reggie Bullocks of the world, if you just told anybody like, hey, just stand in the paint. Like, don't worry about whoever you're guarding. Like, if you're guarding Dennis Schroeder, it doesn't matter. If you're guarding Russ, obviously, really doesn't matter. It like whoever it is, just stand in the paint and get in LeBron and AD's way, and really kind of churn up and chum up that area in front of the rim, and that's going to kind of constipate the Lakers' offense. But now that the Lakers have more at almost every time, the Lakers have at least one, maybe two guys who defenses have to care are open on the 3-point line.
Right.
And that makes it so like not having DFS against LeBron really kind of hurts more because he's not going to have whoever is guarding LeBron isn't going to have that kind of help.
Nope. All right. Now we got to talk about the one thing that I don't really want to talk about, but I think is worth bringing up just because of where we are in the year. So Mavs fans are perpetually frustrated by now with what feels like to me, and I'm not always like this. I used to be before I got into this business and I learned a little more, but it really feels like with what Windhorst and then our Tim Bontemps and some of these other ESPN figures are pushing, Colin Cowherd the other day, I feel like there's a real wag the dog issue where there's a lot of smoke about how Kyrie will end up in Los Angeles. And I don't know how to feel about it other than be annoyed because when you look at the math, the Lakers would have to strip mine the team. Like, and you know, we just talked about this with some of the players that they have. That doesn't seem like something that the team would want to do. So I'm really curious, like, what is your sort of understanding? And then what is your position of like, what's going on here?
So I guess it's a few things going on. One, and I think this is something that ESPN and like those kinds of big platform reporters are kind of ignoring, like actively ignoring, is like you're talking about the math. Kyrie, if let's say the Lakers actually go down this path, and I think it would be incredibly stupid of them to do this after you used a first rounder to go out and get D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt, after you used second rounders to go out and get Rui Hachimura and Mo Bamba, like after you use all of those assets and you don't have very many assets to speak of as it is, you're going to bring those players in and then immediately renounce them at the beginning of the offseason in order to maybe have a chance at getting Russ or at getting Kyrie Irving. That doesn't make much sense in terms of asset management. The other part of this too, Kyrie Irving was on a team with his best friend, a team that he and his best friend like hand chose, a team that just fired the head coach to appease him and his best friend. Like they had everything that, you know, that they could possibly want in a situation. And yet because Brooklyn was reluctant or refused to max out Kyrie Irving, he tanked the entire situation. Eventually is now a Dallas Maverick while he was a free agent last year. There were reports that he was willing to take the taxpayer mid-level exception to go to the Lakers. And the entire reason behind that was like trying to get more out of Brooklyn. So like, I just think a lot of what you hear and a lot of what comes from Kyrie's camp here, it to me reads as him pressuring Dallas into giving him his full max. And hey, just so you know, if you don't give me this full max, I'm perfectly willing to go to the Lakers, right? But if he goes to the Lakers, he's taking like a $20 million like a $15 million tax cut.
And and I don't want to say the man needs the money because that's not
but it matters
A,
to him.
business, and B, I don't know. But like the fact of the matter is his last 2 years have resulted in a change in perpetual income for him. Like
Yeah.
severing the deal with Nike.
Yep.
That's wild. Like we've not really talked about that because it's just players that doesn't happen very often. Players are usually like shoe athletes for life. And he's 30, he's gonna be 31. He might already be 31. I can't remember, but this is his last best hope for a big contract. And I don't know how I feel about him yet. I like watching him play basketball. I can't tell you that. I don't know what Dallas would do because they have the ability to give him a 5-year max. That's $250 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, and it's just like that alone, when you look at that with what the Lakers could do, the best, I think, like there is like some sign and trade possibility at play. And I think both, like if that was something Kyrie wanted, that would be in the Mavericks' best interest because they took a big gamble here. But it's interesting to hear you say that. That's what I had sort of thought. And that's why it's like when I talk with Lakers friends, it's why it's so weird being pushed from these national reporters that this is a thing, because it's interesting, but it doesn't necessarily seem to be in the Lakers' best interest either.
It's in ESPN's best interest, right? Like, can I like, am I allowed to just say that? Of course, ESPN benefits from Kyrie reuniting with LeBron and playing alongside Anthony Davis in LA. Like, of course, that's what they want. It's funny. Again, you just look at the 2 games that the Lakers have played with LeBron healthy and with all of the new guys. LeBron and AD haven't had to play 30 minutes together, and they've won both of their games handily. Now, they beat New Orleans without Zion, but like that's just how they perpetually are. And they beat the Warriors without Steph on the road, and they've been terrible on the road even with Steph. So like there are disclaimers here to notice and for people to point out. But the caliber of basketball that we are watching now with depth and shooting around LeBron and AD is right there with the caliber, not right there with, but, resembles the caliber of basketball that the Lakers won a championship with, right? They won a championship with LeBron, AD shooting and defense, right? Shooting, athleticism, length, and defense. And yeah, I tweeted it last night during the game. I hope the front office is paying attention because there's going to be opportunity like you're talking about, sign and trade for Kyrie. Bradley Beal is already talking about like, hey, my patience is running out. It's like, man, you just signed a record-setting contract.
Yep.
Zach LaVine apparently wants to be in LA, and there's that aspect of it too. And this is part of why I think they kept their first rounder because on draft night they could technically make a 2 first-round pick trade, and they have contracts to be able to make it work and all of that stuff. But yeah, I just, it doesn't make any sense to me to have success with LeBron, AD shooting in depth, fall on your face in a three-prong model that like they have with Russell Westbrook, then immediately resume a higher caliber of basketball with LeBron, AD shooting in depth, and then immediately go back to the 3-star model after potentially having this success. Like if they make the playoffs, and look, maybe what the way that they're playing isn't sustainable. It's altogether possible. But if this is sustainable and they go on a run and they make the playoff or they make the play in and they get into the playoffs and then immediately turn around and ignore that success all over again, I'm turning into the Joker. Like I have no idea what to do with how actively ignorant they are when it comes to what gets you success with LeBron and AD.
That's right. Okay, that actually makes me and understanding like I'm still kind of really concerned about giving Kyrie Irving a lot of money, but I'm also really concerned with what the Mavericks have been doing for years and nobody cares. We just keep kind of ending up in similar spots.
Well, it's what you have to do, right? Like when you give up everything like you did for Kyrie, you at least have to sign him to a deal to keep that cap spot. And then if it isn't working, or if he chooses, whenever he chooses to, whenever his what is it, the ADD, whenever it strikes again, you want to have him on contract and with some security for whatever team is trading for him, or on a workable trade for whatever, or a workable contract for wherever he goes next. you kind of have to sign him to a deal. Now, the 5-year max, that
All right. They did this.
Yeah.
They did this with Porzingis sight unseen, where they just gave him the money and they did not have to do a lot of what they did. And Mavericks, and I think a lot of front offices work from this position of, well, if we do right by players and agents, then that'll come around in the end. And I don't believe that shit for a minute.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, you're asking for a favor from people who inherently act on what behooves them, and that's
fine. Like that's
how
the
it's
world works.
that's how it's supposed to work.
Anyway, well, I would ask you where we could find your stuff. Is it still the same podcast feed for the moment?
It is, yeah. It's still the Silver Screen and Roll podcast network for still kind of the foreseeable future, but yeah, the nice thing is, it seems like they're handing over the pod feed control of the pod feeds. So if you subscribe to your show, you're still going to be subscribed to your show. If you're subscribed to my show, then you're going to continue to be subscribed to my show.
Yep. Well, thank you for hanging out with me on a Friday afternoon. I'll get this up on Saturday morning. Everyone go check out the last 2 shows that I've done, as well as the show that I did with Ben Golliver a couple days ago. Really liked that one. Ben's obviously
Ben's great.
He's very opinionated, like strong Kyrie takes, where he was like, do not let Kyrie in your heart. It was really funny. Anthony, thanks so much for hanging out. And guys, we will talk to you on Sunday afternoon. Have a good weekend.